Hello and a warm welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast. I am your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share the video, comment on it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast and all sorts of the content on the channel. Of course, follow us on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram, and of course, listen on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. Welcome to episode 163. Coming up in the episode will be, of course, a full review or a full-scale retrospective of the La Liga, but not for now. We'll leave that on the back burner for a little while, and let's talk about the important business for the moment. It is the Europa League final on Wednesday, Manchester United versus Villareal. It caps off a pretty uninspiring campaign for the Europa League, to be fair, this season, I would say. Comparatively to last season, it's not as interesting. And again, it is not a slight against the Europa League, because most people would think that I'm saying that because the Europa League is an uninteresting competition in its entirety, but I don't think so. I think it's a pretty interesting situation and a competition. I think it's a pretty exciting one sometimes, and it has a certain intimate feel to it, more than the Champions League for European football at the very least. And it has the chance for some minutes to really shine more than the Champions League could ever give them, probably. But definitely, the important part of the match now is how both teams are going to be approaching this. Manchester United enter this game clear favourites, I would say, to win. Most media putting them in the position where they need to win, where they're going to be really, either they should win or their season has been bad, because the expectations from United this season have been different. Seeing how they started the season, seeing how they were playing for the last half of the last season, which was sort of inspiring, sort of exciting, giving them a lot of hope, giving the fans a lot of hope that they could start the season in a strong way. They didn't start in the way they liked exactly. They had some horrible results at home in both the league and the Champions League. We remember the 6-1 against Tottenham, the loss against Crystal Palace, the draws against Chelsea, and the loss against Arsenal. That was a period of time in the start of the season when Man United simply couldn't win at home. Even in the Champions League, you can add that with losing to PSG. So it has to be. So first of all, we have to give credit to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the turnaround he made this season. I mean, not exactly a turnaround that City made, going from being 12th or 13th at the 10th day of the season to winning the title, which is quite the turnaround, quite the transition, really. But you have to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a little bit of credit for making Manchester United at least competing for the Europa League trophy. Second in the league, he will take it. Second in the league in the Europa League, he will take it. It is the same that Mourinho did back in 2017, so he's not really adding something new, but certainly with this squad, a little bit of improvement, I legitimately think United could go from this situation to winning the title next season. Not necessarily my prediction that he will win the title, that Ole will win the title, or that Man United are going to be winning the Premier League, but it's just a sort of possibility that United could improve themselves to the point where they compete for the league title. From a Villareal perspective, this game is all their season, I would say. Let's be real. United are favourites to win this. If they don't win this, is a disappointment, yes, but for Villareal, it's a different animal altogether. For Villareal, this is their season. This is all their season. If they win this, they enter the Champions League next season. Quite a different situation for them, and more money, obviously more exposure, and all of that stuff that comes with being in the Champions League. If they don't win it, they will be in the UEFA Conference League, and that is a different animal altogether, a new competition, probably going to be in the obscurity of Thursdays even more, and I'm sure they don't want that. I'm sure there is a part in their hearts that wants to win it. Now, the perception of Villareal is, or most people saw Villareal as, a team that lacks space, a team that lacks, speed and pace up front, although they're not short of it. That is a completely wrong idea. If you saw them, they have, Gerard Moreno is a pretty quick and vital player. Samuel Chukwueze is a pretty quick and vital player. You have Manuel Trigueros moving things in the middle, and definitely they're not slow. That is one true sure thing I think about them, is that they're not slow at all. If anything, they can be explosive. They can be pretty quick. Their form in the Europa League, defeating Arsenal in the semi-final, after going through Arsenal, I think Man United is a different animal, so this might play into it, the way they would think of the game. Unai Emery, after dealing with his former side, this is a completely different ball game with Manchester United, not because Man United are necessarily super strong, but because they're better than Arsenal, clearly. This is a different levels between them and Arsenal this season, and speaking of Arsenal, finishing 8th in the Premier League and without European football might have been a good thing for them. Villareal, they've been really decent in the league. They're finishing 7th in the league, again a position which is decent. Again, could have been better. Their performances in the league have been underrated at certain points. They had some great results over the course of the season against the Man United side that comes with all the expectations, all the favouritism in the world. You think, what is going to be the strength of Villarreal versus Man United? I think their compactness. They tend to be compact. When they defend, they really tend to be compact. They want to be, tight. They want to be really sort of narrow when they defend, when after of course taking a lead or after having their strong points in the game, they really want to stay compact and defend really well, and they do that really well for the most part. Maybe without a little bit of movement, but they certainly do that really, really well. Their defensive organism is pretty good. Pau Torres is the future, I think, of the Spanish defending, and obviously a future great in the Spanish defending is waiting to happen. Alfonso Pedraza is a great left back in terms of the defensive performances that he gave. Mario Gaspar is an experienced head of the team. You have Raúl Albiol. Raúl Albiol, despite being older than anyone else on the team, he has not taken the captaincy in Villarreal, which is weird considering the guy is 35. You look at the lineup for Villarreal and who's taken the captaincy. It's Mario Gaspar, who's 5 years younger. But again, still, Raúl Albiol adds a lot of experience, and again with a youth, with a young defender in Pau Torres. Again, just an amazing defender waiting to happen. In Pau Torres, obviously called up for the Spanish national team in the Euros, and he's definitely someone who Villarreal can rely upon in the Europa League final to break down United's attack, which transitions us to the question: who's going to be playing for United's attack? Who's going to be the front three? I don't know, 4 maybe. Then are going to be starting. Obviously, the choices may be, or most of the answers would be, you start with Cavani, whatever it is. And Cavani has been so good for United this season that it has been unbelievable. Like, from being a player that was brought in for a specific goal, I would say, let's be fair. He was brought in for the specific goal for the season. Definitely wasn't exactly focused on too much in terms of the scoring goals in terms of the league. Someone who could be someone who went under the radar as far as deals are concerned, as far as a deal unconcerned and transfer windows is concerned. But certainly he's someone who brought his A game to the attack of Manchester United. I would say that he has a big part in them not just getting in the Europa League final, but also being that good in the league and saving their second place, which could have gone really, really bad. They could have lost that. They could have lost their second place in the in this season if they had dropped some results, if they couldn't manage to score in certain games. He's proven his value for someone who's 34. Again, scoring loads of goals, considering the amount of time he played, really. Considering the fact that he started 3 games, he scored 5 goals in the Europa League only, and then you add to that, of course, his good record in the Premier League this season. He scored 10 goals in 13 starts, which is again, amazing considering how great he is, and also scoring from the bench, coming on from the bench and scoring in certain games. And it's not just about the goals themselves, it's about the quality. I mean, it's not about the number, it's about the quality as well of the goals, adding so much needed. I think so much depth needed, so much movement, so much, intelligence needed to United's attack, which they haven't been finding for a while. Obviously, with the links to Kane and all of that, we will see if they bring him next season. It will have a certain other element to it. Also, the attack from Villareal side of point isn't exactly that bad either. I mean, they really have a certain potency about them, with the likes of Gerard Moreno having one of his best seasons yet. Definitely with Villareal, he might be demanded from a bigger side in Europe next season after his exploit, scoring 21 goals with Villareal, helping them to the Europa League final, being one of their best players, one of the best players of La Liga, really, and maybe you could argue he's the best. I mean, if you're a Villareal fanatic, maybe you would argue that, but I think he just edged by the likes of Benzema and Messi in La Liga, but definitely he's a player really, really worth noting, and he might be the player to watch for Villareal as much as Cavani might be the one to watch for Manchester United. So as far as the details are concerned, I mean, predictions, let's give predictions to finish. I would say United, enter as favourites, but I don't know, when I have a feeling that Villareal could win it. I mean, they could do it. Again, if we're judging by possibilities, everything is possible, but I'm going to choose a prediction here. I'm going to go wild. I'm going to say Villareal would shock United, and they would do it either by drawing 1-1 and going all the way to penalties, or by beating them 2-1. Hopefully it will be a great game, and hopefully we enjoy it all together. That's my prediction for the final. I hope I don't jinx it. Anyway, again, Villareal to win the final 2-1. And hopefully we will see a great match. Let's go on and leave the Europa League final now, and we'll talk about La Liga, obviously, just over the weekend, and Atletico Madrid, of course, were the champions after a exhausting campaign, at least for them mentally. It was pretty nervous the way they won the title. In the end, they just sneaked it off Real Madrid. They made it nervous for their fans, they made it nervous for themselves, and they won it in the end. But now, of course, we're going to be looking back now in a bit of a retrospective at how the season went, and we'll look at the biggest, I think, highlights from the season, or the biggest moments, I would say, for the season. Let's get the sort of the bits and pieces here and there. Of course, let's remind you who was promoted, who was relegated, who was promoted to the Champions League. Atletico Madrid, of course, the champions. Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Sevilla make the top four. Real Sociedad, Betis to the Europa League, while Villareal, at the moment, before the Europa League final, are in the Conference League. Then you have, of course, Huesca, Valladolid, and Eibar being relegated. The top goal scorer of the season, obviously, is Messi. The Pichichi is going to go to him, 30 goals this season. The top assist goes for Iago Aspas, of course. The combined number goes for Lionel Messi, 39 goals and assists. The most saves per game is Jaime Dominic. The keeper with the most clean sheets is, of course, Jan Oblak with 18, and 17 for Thibaut Courtois. The goalkeeper, Yassine Bono from Sevilla, the Moroccan goalkeeper, comes with 15 at third. These are the bits and pieces you need to know. Obviously, the stats, I would say, about most of the season. The team of the week, or the team of the season, as chosen per the Sofa Score app, is Jan Oblak in the goalkeeping position, Jordi Alba, Stephen Savage, Joel Koundé, Kieran Trippier, Iago Aspas, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, Lionel Messi, Gerard Moreno, and Benzema. I would only defer in one thing. I would put Pau Torres in the space of Joel Koundé, and I would put De Jong in the middle instead of Iago Aspas, albeit it's a respected, I think, lineup. Anyway, I don't really defer from that lineup. I only have Pau Torres and Frankie De Jong to choose from. So let's start talking about La Liga in retrospective, and let's look back at how the season went. Obviously, we're going to talk about the top three dogs in La Liga, and we will talk about their season in particular. Then we talk about the best of the rest, or stuff like that. Let's start with Atletico Madrid, the champions. Of course, we're going to sing their prayers for a while. Again, they had it for a while. They were really running away with it, but they gave themselves a big scare in the midway of the season. They had a great run from the start of the season until December or whatever, and until February pretty much. They were 10 points and 11 points ahead of the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona, and they were pretty good doing it as well. Like, they were impressive. I mean, they were winning games 4-0 and 5-0. They were really strong defensively. They've never been that bad defensively, considering they had the strongest defense in La Liga with 25 goals. But it always has been, the period where they started bleeding points, if I should say. The fact is, they started really giving themselves some heartaches, trailing behind, giving themselves scares during games, regressing behind after taking the lead. All sorts of weird stuff happened midway through the season, in the period from February to April, really, where Atletico Madrid couldn't hold themselves and really showed Real Madrid and Barcelona too much space to come in behind, and even Sevilla at a certain point looked like they would be joining them in the title race. But again, credit to Simeone for getting it together in the final couple of matches and making a season that will be unforgettable, I would say, for the Atletico Madrid fans, even if it is only La Liga. And obviously sacrifice maybe La Liga, not exactly wanting to go out on the Champions League and the Copa del Rey, but in the grand scheme of things, it will be counting as a sacrifice to win the league. And obviously it paid off. Again, it paid off nervously, but it paid off hugely for them. They won the title and all of that, and they will have the right to celebrate it, I think, until the next season. And obviously that puts, I think, more pressure on them now to even deliver more in La Liga, not just in La Liga, and in the Champions League as well, because they should be expected to be favourites in the Champions League to at least make it in the quarters or the semis. I mean, they do that. They really qualify to the knockout stages, but they cannot really fix it. You look at their record in the Champions League, they just couldn't finish what they start in the Champions League. Their campaign just goes to shreds after they get to the knockout stages, and this season was a bit of an evidence for that. I mean, losing in the round of 16 to a Chelsea side where they should have been favourites against, but particularly I think with the transformation of Thomas Tuchel, with that side they definitely gained favour over Atletico Madrid. But again, it will count as a sacrifice, and it will count as a moment where Diego Simeone preferred the league over the Champions League, which is, maybe a smart decision, but definitely a decision that almost Diego Simeone regretted with the last couple of games of the season, where they was giving themselves serious heart attacks over those kind of matches. On the other side of the Madrid City, really, Real Madrid had a wobbly season. You cannot describe it otherwise. A wobbly season, injury-rated season, fitness lacking season. They had this spell where they almost looked out of everything in the start of the season. Then they saved themselves with the Champions character, I would say, and then they were in the Champions League knockout stages, the round of 16 and the quarters. And although I would argue that they could have gone out earlier than the semi-final, but the results against Atalanta and Liverpool gave them a shelf life. But definitely, they got what they deserve against Chelsea. As far as the league is concerned, again, it's like everybody is tripping in everybody's feet. Real Madrid themselves started badly in the season. They had a bad start. They had a bad form at the beginning. Then they picked themselves up. When they picked themselves up in the Champions League, it looked bleak at the start of the season. They looked to be, trophyless. They ended trophyless, but certainly they improved enough to make you believe that they could win a trophy. Not exactly the great levels of the first stint of Zinedine Zidane with the club, but certainly, considering the squad they had, considering the injuries they had, considering the lack of performances, the average performances that Real Madrid put, I would say this is a pretty big achievement, competing for the Liga title until the last moment of the season. It is quite a great achievement, I would say, for Real Madrid, considering the squad that they have, which half of it probably is going to be put up for sale in the market. And we're all hearing about the reports. Real Madrid apparently accepting offers for Eden Hazard, Gareth Bale, Asensio, Isco, Marcelo, you name it. I think aside from Casemiro, Modric and Kroos, this midfield trio, and Benzema obviously, I think any other player probably is up for grabs for Real Madrid. That is how bad, uninspiring, average, whatever you want to call it, Real Madrid's season has been. in La Liga. That is how it is. Barcelona, the third of the three, top of the table sides, had a different story, I would say. Not a different story in terms of the performances on the pitch, because they had the same sort of form. They started really bad, and then they picked up. Ronald Koeman found a formation that is working in the 3-4-2-1 and all of that. Improved the likes of De Jong and Pedri coming to the forefront. That poor guy, wasn't rested, and thankfully for him, he didn't play the last couple of games with Barcelona, or else he would be overburned before the Euros. Barcelona started badly, again improved. Koeman found a formation that works in the midway through the season. They really worked it out, and they managed to finish third, where they could have really finished outside of that position had it been for Messi at certain points, had it been for the other clubs, again, tripping over themselves. If Messi wasn't in Barcelona, what could be the situation, really? I mean, you take out those 30 goals out of Barcelona, you would have 55 goals. Real Sociedad scored more than that, and they are fifth if you take out Messi goals from Barcelona. So, I mean, and with the whole story of Messi, is he staying, is he leaving? Obviously now he's staying. We know that he's going to be staying for probably maybe 1 year. He's committing his future to Barcelona, obviously with the Aguero transfer potentially being an appetizer for him, but I don't see the point really of him staying another year at a club that will still be ineffective next season. I mean, I'm not expecting Barcelona to all of a sudden explode into life and win a treble or a sextuple. I really don't expect them to be that good next season. It won't change a lot of situations for Barcelona. I don't think it will change a lot. Their season have been up and down. And again, when they had a run, they picked up a run in the in midway through the season, where they had like 12 or 13 victories in a row. Winning the Copa del Rey, of course, is a big achievement again, considering that, I mean, somehow Barcelona, who started the season, let's say, worse than Real Madrid on paper, managed to finish with a trophy, while Real Madrid finished with nothing. It's quite a staggering contrast. But again, with Laporta coming in as a new president, things sort of settled down a little bit. But this summer is going to be so hot in Barcelona. In Spain overall, we'll see what Real Madrid will do, we'll see what Barcelona will do, and also we'll see what Atletico Madrid will do. The champions maybe need some improvement at certain positions. Maybe they will go in the market. Some players would be bought, some players would be sold, but definitely they will try and improve their squad and keep the core of the squad for next season. Some players committing their future, of course, to the club for next season. Luis Suarez is staying for another year. Jose Maria Jimenez is staying for another year. Obviously, most of the players are not going to be leaving, really, with Atletico Madrid winning the league and potentially, going far in the Champions League. The best squad in Europe, I would say, Atletico Madrid, after Man City and Inter Milan, I would say, in terms of depth, in terms of value. Deservedly winners. As for Real Madrid and Barcelona, they were disappointing each in their own ways. But clearly, if you say who's more disappointing, I would say maybe Barcelona, because Real Madrid, I mean, they were riddled with injuries. I mean, you could argue that Barcelona themselves were riddled with injuries as well, but I think Real Madrid affected them more because they already have been exhausted, and the injuries just made the situation worse for Real Madrid. Elsewhere in the Liga, of course, I mean, a team that surprised me, I would say, positively, was Real Betis. I thought they had a great season comparatively to where they usually were. Obviously, the Europa League is mostly where they always end up, but they had a decent season. I think Nabil Fekir is one of the most underrated players in the world with them. I was impressed as well with Villareal, as I mentioned, although 7th might not give them justice. Real Sociedad, went from top of the table at certain points to being 5th, which is meh. Not exactly the greatest thing in the world. Celta Vigo made an incredible turnaround this season, starting in a bad position, almost looking down the table, but then managing to finish 8th in the table, and potentially could be in the UEFA Conference League if Villareal win the Europa League. Granada were decent this season. They made a good run in the Europa League. They were, eliminated by United. That was fine. Athletic Bilbao, not exactly the greatest of, not exactly the greatest of seasons. but definitely they will try and look to improve next season. Winning the Super Cup, but managing to lose 2 Copa del Reys in one season, that is an unprecedented feat. Again, you have Osasuna, level. Cadiz, a surprise of the season, started really well and then just faded away, but at least they didn't go down. Valencia barely escaped. Levante as well. Getafe, a side that last season was won the Europa League, they couldn't hold themselves together. And then you have, of course, Alaves, Elche, and the 3 at the bottom. Huesca, whom, they weren't exactly bad. They played really well at certain points, but definitely the lack of wins, really, in particular, hurt them too much. They're the second side with the most draws this season, with 13 draws. Or the third side with the most draws, with 13 draws after Valladolid with 16 and Levante with 14, and that hurt them a lot. If they won like 5 or 4 games of those, they would have been surviving. And then of course you have Eibar. So those are that's your season, I think, overall in La Liga. Not exactly exciting down the table, but obviously up the table with the title race eventually becoming exciting, I would say, because I still believe that Atletico Madrid gave too much leeway for Real Madrid and for Barcelona and for Sevilla and opened themselves up for competition this season. So that's it for this episode. I was with HAD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast, and all the content on the channel still coming ahead of the Euros. And of course, follow us on social media site PSP on Twitter, PSP on Instagram, and listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. And until next time, I will be seeing you soon. Goodbye.